All right, let's move into secondary application information. And what a secondary application is, it's basically another application for all this information on you and to allow you to express more interest on the school. If you meet the minimum requirements, so MCAT, GPA, those kind of things for an institution, you'll receive a secondary application. And this will come in around a month or, a couple months after you submit your primary and it's processed. So let's get into that general information. And the first part of any secondary application is going to be repeat personal information. So going over your background, residency again, and then indicating like what classes meet the school's requirements. So if they require a certain amount of math credits, you're going to essentially click, drag, and select which classes you took during your undergrad or post-bac that meet their requirements. The next is the most important part. That's the essays. So there's usually about 2 to 8 essays per application. Now this can really add up a lot. Luckily, they're usually brief and a lot of them carry over. So sometimes you can kind of write one and build off of that one for other secondary applications, but you really want to be careful because they're going to be more specific to the school and the environment they try to create. I've seen essays as short as 60 characters and as large as about 4,000 characters. Now, essays usually repeat each year, and prior year essays can be found online, so I highly recommend looking at these essays in that month of June where you have essentially nothing to write. This can be your time to pre-write and do research about each school that you're interested in so the secondary process is much, much easier. All right, so before you get your secondaries, you're going to want to set up some kind of Google Sheet or Google Excel to track them all because you're going to be receiving 20, 30 secondaries with essays and information at a very short amount of time. Essential information is going to include school name, personal rank, national rank, date received, a personal deadline, date submitted. Optionally, you can put what essay type. So do they actually ask you like why us or why this location? And then I had a username and password section because you're going to get a different username and password for every secondary. Believe me, it adds up. Hard to remember them all, right? So make sure you're recording them somewhere. And a lot of times the requirements are different for each, so you may have different passwords and usernames. Make sure to reevaluate or redo your personal rankings of each school, as this is going to help determine personal deadlines. And what I mean by personal deadlines is this is different than the definite deadline of the secondary. They'll set it in the secondary application, and a lot of times the deadline isn't even till like November, October, but you're going to want to submit it much earlier than that to show your interest. The usual guidelines is about 2 weeks to show that you're interested, so this is not much time to finish essays when you have 20 or 30 secondaries piling up. But if you did your research on the institution's curriculum, their research history maybe, their general student body during that month before primaries and secondaries, you're going to have a better feel for how you rank that school and for generally writing those essays. Now for deadlines, I ranked all my schools into tiers, going from tier 1 to 4. Tier 1, I said I'm going to submit no matter what within 2 weeks, with tier 4 being around 4 weeks. So I kind of like incrementally increased by half weeks for tier 2 and 3. And what that meant is if I got a tier 4 secondary before a tier 1 school secondary, I would put the tier 4 aside, work on the tier 1 because that was my top priority. That was a school that I thought I resonated better with and that I could really see myself going to. Now, making sure you fill this out is very important because you don't want any secondaries to slip or you to forget which date that you mean to send it out to show your interest. And this also can kind of help you determine if you need to send an update letter. If it's been multiple months since you sent your secondary in, this can be a good time to send us an update letter and let them know what things you've been working on. And note 2 weeks. 2 weeks is something that they may advise on the secondary. They may say, if you want to show your interest, get this back in 2 weeks, or they're just going to say, get it in before October 15th, right? So for general rule, it's 2 weeks, and make sure you submit it by then for the schools you're most interested in. All right, for general tips, make sure you check your email often. You will have a break from June to July. So secondaries are going to then start hitting your inbox fast. So be ready. Check your email every day to ensure that you have enough time to complete these secondary applications. All right. In that month between, though, you need to make sure you're prioritizing your top schools, making that chart on Excel or on Google Sheets and researching them so you have a smooth essay writing process. If you know why, specific programs and reasons why you like a university, I'm telling you, the medical school essays for those secondaries, it'll be a breeze. All right. And if you know the specific programs and emphasis of each school, then pre-writing will be relatively easy. And I really do recommend pre-writing for the broad questions, as some of the essays may change each year, but generally the most broad ones will not change.